Let's see if we can get this right. Trying to get used to doing this with a match because that's what our forefathers did. So, let's see how this one works out. We're off to a great start. Anyway, hello YouTube. This is the Gentleman Scholar. Housekeeping. Simple cob, and appropriate to that, I'm smoking Norman Rockwell's Santa Surprise because I like it. I just want to say hello, wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, or to her. I think I'm going to the lighter again because I'm just not feeling it. You know what I mean? Try it one more time. Yeah, well, I decided to commit this to camera, and of course it didn't work, so I'm just going to do it the lazy way. Here we go. Okay, 3 minutes into it, so I think I should get started. First thing I want to mention is we have a couple people, I guess this is a shout out, we have a couple people over from other platforms here in the YTPC. One of them is Folk Picking Piper. He's over on Instagram giving us basically smoking his pipe and plucking his guitar and giving us some good metaphysical advice, some thoughts, and some, he sounds like he's a heavy duty thinking guy, and talks about our connection to the divine, that kind of thing. And he's now over on YouTube, so it's nice to see him. You get the occasional video on Instagram, and there he is. So I'm glad he came over. Another one is W.R. Kane. He's over from Facebook. I don't know his handle here on YouTube, but he's relatively new, and he's been smoking for 40 years. He seems to have a decent sense of humor because he seems to like the warped stuff that I put out on Facebook. So he's always commenting. So now he's decided to do videos on the YTPC as well. One more time. And it's good to have him. and I clearly screwed up the packing of this pipe. It's one of those things that's one of the hardest things about pipe smoking to master, I feel. And I've tried every method possible, and sometimes I think it's just down to chance. The Frank method, the twist method, the squink method, just doesn't seem to want to work. But anyway. Just not going to work today. Anyway, today I'd like to talk about Christmas movies. And I go through the usual battery of them. I have my favorites, as I suspect so do you. But this one right here is probably the most highly regarded of the list. Obviously, it's Joyeux Noel. It's a joint, I think it's a joint Belgian-British production. The only real name in it I can think of is Gary Lewis. And you'll probably remember him from Outlander. He's a Scottish actor. And basically that film is about the 1914 Christmas armistice on no man's land in France. And if there's any movie about the true spirit of Christmas, the true message of Christmas that I could think of, it would be this, because it's about throwing down your differences, finding your commonalities, and celebrating with your commonalities, and just having a good time. And German troops, French troops, and British troops, but in this case the Brits are represented by the Royal Scottish Fusiliers. And Gary Lewis is he's the chaplain. And he picks up his pibroch, his bagpipes, and he starts playing, and then he gets a response from the Germans. Someone starts singing over there, etc. So on. Next thing you know, they've dropped hostilities and they're meeting over no man's land. They're sharing drinks, they're sharing food, they're just basically enjoying Christmas together. And as you can probably imagine, that does not go down well with the superiors back home, all three of them. And it's a very inspiring message, but it's also a little bit depressing when the British High Command sends another priest down to replace this one, and of course he's all about, like, cutting down people for God, because we're on the winning side, we're on God's side, etc. so on. But I see it every year. I highly recommend it. I always get misted up, especially when the music's playing and the chaplain holds his mass. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. Every time I see it in like a secondhand store or a charity shop, I pick one up just so I can send it out. Try this again. Other Christmas movies I'd like to talk about in brief. Yeah, I just did not do it right. Saw Die Hard again, and of course, I think it's the perfect action movie. It really, really is. I mean, it's down to the script writing. Steven D'Souza wrote the script for the first movie, based on a Roderick Thorpe novel. Everything in that movie is set up perfectly, and like a Swiss stopwatch, like a Swiss pocket watch, because everything is set up there perfectly. The plot runs along. In other words, a perfect movie for me, regardless of the genre, is something I don't have to squint through too often to say, yeah, that could happen. Even at the end, when that terrorist is hung by the neck by a chain, if you wanted to do one tiny bit of squinting, you could say the explosion from the roof shook him loose so that Officer Powell could redeem himself at the end of the movie. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave the details to you. And it is a Christmas movie because basically Detective John McClane discovers what's important in his life throughout all that danger. Also, Die Hard 2, for the most part, it's also done by Steven D'Souza, but that one you have to squint way more to enjoy, especially with the jet fuel. igniting the jet fuel. Yeah, igniting the jet fuel to like blow that plane up in midair as it's about to come off the tarmac. That's a bit much to swallow, but for the most part, it's still entertaining. One movie I'd like to recommend is called Rare Exports. Our buddy the Krampus, keeps getting more and more of a profile every year. He's basically Santa's enforcer. He takes the bad children and he stuffs them in a bag and beats them with tree limbs until they behave. There's a Swiss movie, I believe it's a Swedish movie called Rare Exports. It's you can find it on Pluto with some ads. Basically, it's this. It's sort of like a grittier version of a Steven Spielberg movie where a kid deduces the truth and he arms himself up to stop the Krampus and his army of elf zombies that look sort of like Santa Claus. They all have beards. Regardless, they all grow beards once they get under a spell, and they start kidnapping the kids and offering them up to the Krampus so he can be rejuvenated, resurrected, whatever. He's trapped in a mountain. Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life. This year, okay, depending on my mood, It's a Wonderful Life. Depending on which mood I'm in, sometimes I think, oh wow, what a lovely Christmas story. It brings a tear to my eye. Other times I'm saying, wow, that town really screwed over George Bailey. They bled him until he was white. They took from him. And finally, at the last possible second, they finally come through for him by, making a collection for the town to replace that missing money that Uncle Billy misplaced at the bank. Funny thing is, I noticed that Uncle Billy lost the money when he thought he'd be a smart. When he sunk down to Potter's level, when he decided to rub his nose in it about the successful Bailey boys, that's when he lost the money. So that's a good lesson. Don't stoop to their level. Don't be a jerk, because there'll always be a price if you do. Also, I realized that Burt Ward is in the movie, playing Burt the policeman, the big policeman. He has that braying, booming voice. I'm like, why does that sound so? And then it hit me, boom! It's Burt Ward from Wagon Train. Back in the early 60s. He did 4 or 5 seasons as Wagon Train, and hard to forget a voice like that, and I can't believe I didn't recognize him sooner. So, yeah. Last movie I'm probably going to end up seeing, I saw half of it already. It's Alistair Sim's version of A Christmas Carol. I saw half of it a couple weeks ago. I'd like to see the whole thing again, because it just captures Victorian-era Christmas so perfectly. And, I don't know, is as brutal as life was in Victorian London, that movie just captures it. It captures. No one does Christmas like the British, the English, anyone in that area of the world. They do Christmas excellently, shot through the prisms of their local cultures. And I've spent many a Christmas in the UK, and there's just something extra magical about it. And this movie reflects it. Also, what I wanted to mention before, when I was mentioning pipers coming from other platforms, I wanted to mention Rupert. Rupert is, you can find him, Rupert the Pipe Man. You can find him on Instagram. I believe he also posts on Facebook. He's a pure black tie type of dude. He looks like he owns an estate. And whenever he's smoking a pipe, he's always dressed to the nines, black tie. He smokes his pipe. The grain is, the grain is always purely polished. The finish is always purely polished. Just a class act, and I've been kind of gently nagging him to go onto YouTube. So here's hoping that he does, and hope we'll see him soon. As it is, he's just like smoking. You just go in and say hello to them and talk about the pipe that he's smoking and everything. But I'm never smoking a pipe when he decides to start a live broadcast. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going on 15 minutes, so I'm going to hold it here. Have a Merry Christmas to my brethren, to my brethren and everyone, male, female, brethren, and whatever female means. To my brethren at the YTPC, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday. Spread the joy. Have a good one, folks. Cheers.